Welcome back to the Barstoolers Premier League podcast. The lads are back after an international break, where we're discussing all the madness that happened prior to the international break, with both Liverpool and United losing by 5 goals each. We're also going to be discussing Project Big Picture, a project which would reshape English football. And of course, we'll be looking ahead to the next round of games in the Premier League. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Barstoolers Premier League podcast. We're back to normal after last week's international break. How did you cope, lads?
International football is awful. Likewise, I have to say. It's not often I get the chance to watch Ireland, and what a joyous experience it was. But we did play well, to be fair. So
played well, but still didn't score a goal. It was just our playing better football. But it's just awful to watch play when you've got shy players like Shane Long playing up front.
You don't realise how much you miss the Barclays until there's a 2-week span of just international ball.
It's not good at all.
Must be nice being French or something, just being good at an international.
But then again, if you're that good, then you're just going to play Moldova and win 6-0. So if anything, it's less interesting. At least Ireland don't expect anything.
Yeah, that is true. The tournaments are the only interest you get. These lulls would just be awful.
The only time we scored more than one in a match since McCarthy took over was Georgia at home. Not Georgia, Gibraltar. It's just shocking to watch.
And that was just about to as well. We scored in the last minute.
Yeah. And the first one was no one goal as well.
Yeah, fuck, that was an absolutely shocking match. Completely regret going to that one. But before the international break, there was a brilliant weekend of Premier League action. The first match that I seen on the Saturday anyway was Leeds against City. Any thoughts on that one?
Leeds impressed and going forward. City just haven't really hit the ground running at all yet this season. Good result against Wolves first game of the season. Thought they were gonna come out and try from the very start to show that they were going to challenge Liverpool for the title this season, but very poor against Leicester. And I know they had 1 or 2 chances towards the end of that game against Leeds, but they still weren't any great shakes. Rodrigo had a few chances, and I think Leeds hit the ball 3 times with it. So they might have even been lucky to come out of that game at a point.
Well, though, Ederson played an absolute blinder in that game, has to be said. And I think it was great to watch those two. That was my pick of the games the weekend, because just to see those two managers going at each other, tactics went completely out the window second half. It was just a joy to watch, to be honest with you.
Leeds didn't really come into it until about 20-25 minutes the first half. City were fairly dominant, and then when Rodrigo came on second half, he really changed the dynamic for Leeds.
Missing more big chances as well, though, especially after the Champions League. The one he missed in the Champions League. Wondering if City have that finisher in their team that's going to help them try reclaim their Premier League title.
Yeah, City started the game really strongly, but then Leeds really came into it. City's attack was looking very fluid. Brilliant Sterling. De Bruyne had an unbelievable free kick that hit the post. But after that, I thought Leeds really grew into it. Rodrigo played well. One lad who came on at half time was Ian Poveda, and he really caused the City defence some problems. Very direct, brilliant dribbling, really quick. I hadn't seen him play before, but he actually signed from City, and I thought he made a real impact. I quite enjoyed Gary Neville on commentary, because Rodrigo was obviously playing, and he was able to provide some actual good analysis on him because he managed him, and he was on about how he played him on the right, and that clearly wasn't the right decision. So he's sort of taking the piss out of himself for that, and just talked about how he's become a very good player after he wasn't playing for Gary Neville. So I thought that was quite funny. But one thing that was clear from this match, a lot of matches this from last season and this season, but very clear, is that if you run at that City defence, you'll absolutely cause some problems. Because I don't know how good that Poveda guy is, but he caused some real problems, and you've seen it in several matches this season. If you just take the game to City, they're very vulnerable.
Yeah, even if you think back to last season when Wolves played them in the Etihad, Adama Traore was causing that City defence serious problems. He was just bombing at them, couldn't stop him. And it was the same with Liverpool. Liverpool, when they play City, especially at Anfield, they just attack him. Quick on the break, City can't defend it. It's a real sort of weakness in the squad.
Yeah, I think that was always prevalent in City, but when they were banging out 100 points, attack was so fluid and the style of play was just fantastic. But now there's definitely frailties in that with Aguero and Jesus being missing. The goals just aren't coming, and they're playing a bit more conservative, more possession based. So
show that, especially last year. There was a few times last year where City ran away with games like 6 or 7-0. But it was the second they came up against a team that was able to defend well. City struggled to put them to bed. I think it's just City's strong points, definitely their attack, but they've never really looked that brilliant in defence. And especially last year when they didn't have Laporte in there as well, they looked incredibly dodgy at the back.
Yeah, no, if I don't have most of the possession stats or anything like that from this game, but if you look at the shots and XG and stuff, it's clear that Leeds were probably the better team. A little bit hard done by to not get all 3 points. Then moving on to another game, it was Leicester against West Ham. I think it was an early kickoff on the Sunday. It's very much a surprise result. I think, James, you were the only one to predict the West Ham win.
Yeah, nothing's a surprise for me.
Absolutely, yeah. It was 3-0 West Ham. Just clear. Leicester just couldn't handle West Ham. David Moyes managed them from home on Zoom, but they just kept just launching balls forward to the likes of Antonio, and Leicester just couldn't deal with it at all. Souček and Rice in the midfield were brilliant. The second goal was just the epitome of how the game went, because it was Aaron Cresswell just hoofed the ball, absolutely no direction, and it was Pablo Fornals who managed to just latch onto it and score. Came out of absolutely nowhere, just one long aimless hoof upfield, and it was 2-0. Leicester played 3 at the back, which I wrote down at the start of the game. I thought that was weird because at home to West Ham, they usually play 4-2-3-1. They changed it for some reason, and it didn't go well.
That's 2 games that David sat out on the sideline, and the last 2 games West Ham have hammered their opponents, and 2 good opponents as well. Like Wolves and Leicester are 2 very good sides. Wolves maybe haven't been as impressed with the start of this season, but who knows how good Wolves are. And Leicester had been 3 before then, and 3 pretty convincing ones as well. So maybe it's just showing maybe West Ham do have the quality there. It's just the manager, because I don't think Irvine's that great a manager either. It's just David Moyes is utterly hopeless, in my opinion, anyway. And you can see that just without him there, they play so much better football.
Right, we pun there, Ronan. It was very unintentional, but yeah, I see these results coming down the pipeline, so it's no surprise to me. Obviously, the prediction king. I don't have much to say about the game, but wait till you see. 3-1 was going to be the scoreline, and Ronan's man Harvey Barnes had a goal ruled out by VAR by a margin, and that would have been me with all 3 points. So justice. 0
shots from Leicester in that game. In the predicting game, I didn't really back Leicester at all in the first couple of games, and they did brilliantly. And then the first time I think I predict them to win and to lose 3-0, they just couldn't deal with that expectation. West Ham had 33% possession. They had 6 shots on target to Leicester 0. So a bit of a basket case of a result. Definitely unexpected, but brilliant result for West Ham.
Do you think with Leicester, like, you don't really play 3 centre backs unless you have a sort of weakness? Like, I know England play with 3 centre backs because they can, but in terms of like they have Harry Maguire and like Stones maybe, but Leicester have 2 grand centre backs in Sionchu and Johnny Evans that they can play 4, and then they have the 2 good full backs, Castagna and Justin Pereira become back from injury. But it's just weird to see them change that formation and costing the game.
Maybe it's just Brendan Rodgers is completely incompetent at playing 3 at the back. So remember, he played 3 at the back against United at Old Trafford, and Liverpool got absolutely spanked that match as well. Bizarre to me that he actually would change it, considering how well Leicester started the season.
Take all these fixtures with a grain of salt. Like, the champions of the Premier League conceded 7 goals. This is insane. Teams are unfit. I don't know what's going on, to be honest with you.
The meat of the discussion, the United and Liverpool games. So United shipped 6 goals to Spurs. I only watched most of the first half. I switched it off after the 4th goal. Not because I didn't want to watch it, although I didn't really object to having to turn it off. Yeah, it was a fast start from United. Martial won the penalty, so we went 1-0 up inside a minute or 2 minutes maybe, with the penalty having time to take it. So it was looking very good. And then Spurs hit back and were 2-1 up just a couple of minutes later. It was Shaw who didn't deal with the ball initially, and then Shaw and Maguire got in a mix-up. Ndombele scored. Just this performance was really sloppy. And I actually think in the first 15-20 minutes, United weren't really that bad. It was just an extremely sloppy game, and both teams just looked all over the shop. Spurs managed to go 2-1 up in that time, and then the red card came. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that red. Very soft.
It's very funny. It could have gone either way. Like if it was Lamela sort of swung for Martial first, and it was just because Lamela went down. It was a joke. It was really funny. And then I thought it was Pogba initially, but then when you see all the replays, it was Martial. But it was just a silly red card.
thought it was absolutely hilarious the way Lamela went down. He was like, "Yeah, sorry, lad, just kind of have to do this."
Yeah, gotta respect it, honestly.
Yeah,
I don't blame him.
Oh, I do the exact same thing myself. But like a United fan, you would be fairly pissed off if that was given against you. But yeah, I'd be more pissed off at the referee.
Yeah, because surely you've got to send both off or neither. Because they did the same thing pretty much.
Yeah.
Best solution there is just give both yellow card. It's
yeah.
I don't think it's a red anyway.
Yeah, no, it was really sloppy. But then United, I had here closing off the space well, good pressing, and that very soon went to shit because we were very bad at it. But they were fairly dominant Spurs, or certainly the better team up until the red card, and then after that it was a non-contest. Did you watch the whole game? Did you get the whole picture?
I watched it all because I thought it was funny, and little did I know what was later on that afternoon.
Yeah,
but exactly. It was just rapid fire Spurs. They were just banging them in, and Son just on the break was just deadly. He's so good.
I was watching with awe when Big Sonny, that I didn't take in my normal team, have in my draft team, just was put up with the goods in a big way. So from that perspective, and I also predicted a Spurs win, I was just loving life. It was fantastic.
Absolutely huge fan of the wee look Mourinho gave the camera at the end there.
The man thrives off drama.
And patting
so good.
Patting Ollie on the head, he was waiting for that one.
That was 10 months in the making, was it?
Just Mourinho just doesn't get any sleep for those 10 months.
Oh, the man is unbelievable holding grudges. He just doesn't let go.
Yeah, much to his detriment at times in his career, but not this time. I just have one note. There was a lot of calls for Eric Bailly to come in place of Victor Lindelof. That did happen, but in my opinion, Eric Bailly is not as good as Victor Lindelof. And that's not to say Lindelof's anything special. Just purely by being there, Eric Bailly just causes panic. I cannot believe that we managed to play Eric Bailly and Marcus Rojo beside each other for 1 or 2 seasons. Absolute chaos at the back. It's never going to go well.
It's just another agenda here. This is agenda on a par with James Hudson agenda.
Yeah, no, he's just...
well, yeah, like he had the double block though before the penalty incident for the corner, didn't he?
I know, yeah. Like he's a good last ditch defender, but even the way he defends those, he just throws himself at the ball. He just absolutely causes chaos.
It's like we touched on a transfer special. It's bizarre how bad United are defending, and they weren't even linked to another.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. That's the one place that they needed to get someone, and now I'm gonna have to wait till January. Yeah,
it's hard to know. But like last season, I do agree we needed to upgrade on Lindelof. I said that in the summer. But last season, it was generally pretty good. We conceded 1 more goal than City, I think, 4 more than Liverpool. Kept, I think, one of the most clean sheets in Europe, although that's probably helped by playing in the Europa League and stuff. But generally speaking, it wasn't that bad.
You're also at risk of being compared to City in that respect. You've spent something like 500 million on defenders since Pep Guardiola come in, and there's still no great shakes at the back. So like you're at risk of doing that as well. If you go up and spend another 50 million or centre half and still end up conceding the same amount of goals, especially after spending 8 million on Maguire.
Yeah, well, there was high hopes for Tuanzebe last season, and it just didn't really happen because of fitness. So if he can get himself fit and just keep injuries away, could be a good addition there. He's highly rated by people at the club. Moving on to arguably an even more bizarre game. Aston Villa 7, Liverpool 2. What are your initial thoughts on this game?
There's only one.
Convinced we just gave up.
Yeah, it was shocking. Joe Gomez should have come off at half time. Adrian just needs to get executed. It was dreadful.
See, arguably Gomez is more at fault for that first goal than Adrian. Like he should have been able to get to that in comfort. It's bad, but like at that stage, especially after the Atletico game, Liverpool players should know how bad.
Yeah, wasn't it? Robertson fizzed it into his feet for the first goal, like a phenomenal pace. What is he doing? What is he doing? You know,
yeah.
So,
Gomez didn't cover himself in great light either, in fairness though.
No, I thought he was very
shite. Absolute shit.
Yeah, Gomez is overrated just because he's English again. But look, like this will sort itself out. This is a freak result, 3 mad deflections, but it was hilarious. But it definitely could become a worry for Liverpool. Just the different players I've seen since the restart, Liverpool haven't as good, and that's just a fact. So
defensively, we've now conceded we've seen 11 league goals in the opening 4 matches, which obviously you've got that standout 7-2, but we also conceded 3 against Leeds. And if it wasn't for Alisson, we would have conceded 2 or 3 against Arsenal as well. But defensively, Liverpool, which is normally the last 2 seasons, Liverpool have kind of prided themselves on how good we've been defensively. To be shipping goals and chances like that is not a great sign at all. And it's something every time I watch Liverpool play, Gregor's on commentary, and every single time it failed, he gives out about Liverpool's high press and the fact that Liverpool kind of play that high line and try to play offside. And yeah, it seems to work for the last 2 seasons, but when you're giving away that many chances and this league's going to be a bit closer to CGG, I have to ask, do Liverpool have to reconsider the defensive style of play?
The worrying thing now is Alisson's injured for a couple of weeks. So we're going to be stuck with Adrian for 3 or 4 weeks now. So that's the worrying thing, I think, in terms of defensive stance for Liverpool.
I do think it's a basket case of a result. It is an anomaly, and I don't think Liverpool are going to play like that again. But I do think there's enough evidence to suggest that if you can just play long balls and just turn Liverpool's defence, you can really get at them. You've seen it with Leeds. You've seen it with Villa. There was patterns emerging there. You can just whip balls up down the flank because Van Dijk, he's not slow, but he's not super quick. Joe Gomez is quick, but I don't know if the quality's there. And then with Robertson and Trent pushing up, that just leaves quite a lot of space. Fabinho had the work of about 10 men in this game, and he just wasn't able to do it. He usually is, but if you can just turn Liverpool, get down the flanks, you can really get at them.
I'll have to disagree with you there. Van Dijk is absolutely rapid. He's so quick.
I wouldn't say
he is very quick, yeah, but like, didn't he clock though one of the fastest? Like it doesn't really matter anyway. It's just throwaway against Barcelona in the 3-1 at the Nou Camp or 3-0 at the Nou Camp.
He was the fastest player in the Champions League that season.
Yeah, serious.
Sprint speed, but acceleration, that initial couple of yards.
Yes.
I don't know.
But like Widge dropped his head something serious. I think Wijnaldum, I would have loved to see him go for 20-30 million. I think just get him out the door. Like we just have a lot of bodies in that midfield. Surplus to requirement. Like Jordan Henderson, we needed him back. We need Thiago back. We need the top 3 midfield firing. And
Naby Keita even's coming to start in midfield now, and I don't think he's not been a success at Liverpool by any stretch of the imagination. I do think he's a good footballer, but I wouldn't put him in my starting 3 in the midfield for Liverpool. Like I think ideally Liverpool's starting 3 would be Fabinho playing deep. Henderson is kind of like the engine in the midfield there, and then Thiago kind of has the creative spark in the midfield. That would be my ideal midfield. I don't know about you. But then again, like Michael touched upon Adrian, Liverpool being linked to Jack Butland this week to replace Adrian. I don't know if there's been any more made of that. But even at that, Jack Butland he's not lived up to potential at all that people thought he was going to be when he was younger. And I genuinely don't think he's that much better than Adrian, although he can't be much worse in fairness.
Mind the midfield and the defence. We need Firmino gone. Mbappe in 2021, Mbappe to Liverpool. It's going to happen.
Well, they don't have that much money, but they're not going to spend that much money, be realistic.
I think you've got to give Villa some credit as well. I thought they were brilliant. Ross Barkley was really good. Grealish was fantastic. Ollie Watkins obviously got the hat-trick. He looks like a really good finisher. We touched upon this in the transfer special. I do think they'll probably stay up now with the additions of Barkley and Watkins.
Well, it's that as well, and you can't score 7 goals against Liverpool without playing somewhat well. Of course, bad mistake from Adrian and 3 wicked deflections, but they still played well. You can't take it away from them, and they have won their first 4 games of the Premier League this season. Like that's going to be a huge boost come towards the end of the season. No matter how bad they end up playing in the rest of the season, 12 points out of 12 gives them a lot more leeway in that relegation battle come towards the last 10 games of the season.
So an absolute basket case of a weekend in the Premier League. Do you think the lack of fans is starting to affect games now? I think that's why we're seeing such weird results and such high amounts of goals.
It's like, just imagine United losing 6-1 at home to Spurs with a full crowd there. The fans will be hounding them. Like, it's a lot easier now for players just to sort of give up. Like, I know that's easy for me to say, like, sat at home, but the hours, like, they're down like 4 or 5 goals. Like, they're not going to be bothered to keep tracking back and putting the pressure on. But if the fans are at them screaming, booing, like, it's a completely different picture for the players.
Yeah, I think we're really starting to see that.
another piece of the puzzle, obviously, could be principally a fitness issue too. Like, you think Pogba having COVID and the state of him that first game back for United, like, just looked off the pace. A lot of players are looking really off the pace, and that could be the training game element of the whole thing, that it just does feel like a bit of a training game when you go a couple down. Fans do impact football a lot, talking about the new proposals that have been drafted for the league, but crazy. They underestimate how much fans impact games. That is definitely for sure.
Moving on to this sort of segment of its own, we haven't really done anything like this on the podcast so far, but there's been proposals drawn up principally by John Henry. This is an exclusive from the Telegraph. Project Big Picture. Now, under this, it would see a complete reform of English football for the first time since 1992, when the top division separated from the rest of the Football League and created the Premier League. It's got a lot of bad press, but I think it's a really complex situation. There's a lot of positives and negatives for all clubs. But essentially, the bottom line is that this would give all the power, well, not all the power, but the majority of the power to the top 6 clubs. At the minute, it's one club, one vote. So any issue that's brought up in the Premier League, each club gets a vote in it, which seems fair. But under this, the top 6 clubs would have the majority of the power on these decisions. The only thing is that EFL clubs are very supportive of it. I think all 72 clubs are in support of this new proposition, because this would pay 250 million automatically to the EFL, all the clubs, and then future 25% of any Premier League TV deal for these teams in the Football League. But it would essentially, it would bring the rest of the Football League closer to the sort of lower Premier League clubs mid-table, but then it would drive the top 6 clubs completely away. So it would make most football clubs more sustainable, but then the top 6 clubs would be completely untouchable. They'd absolutely pull away from the rest.
I was looking at pros myself. The pros, as it is at the minute, for any major change to take place in English football, it's 14 of the 20 Premier League clubs. And there has to be a 14 to 20 majority for a decision to be made. And the proposed change is now that the 9 longer Premier League clubs, which is the big 6, Everton, Southampton and West Ham, have the power. And out of these 9, only 6 out of the 9 have to agree on policy. So that's the big 6 can just go around and say, well, we're all going to agree on this because it's going to suit the 6 of us the best.
Yeah,
so
that's the most detail there. Absolutely, Ronan. You've hit the nail on the head. Like,
it's going to help EFL clubs financially. And I think if they came out and said this and didn't propose the 2 teams go down and said this as a temporary thing, where they're saying, oh, you know, just for a few seasons with the global pandemic and that, we're still in money. We're not overly affected by this. If we give you money for a few seasons, but for those maybe 3 or 4 seasons, we get the power. I think people will be a lot more open to that. But obviously, if you're a Liverpool or Man United and you see a chance for you to have all the power in the game, you're going to want to take it. There was a few other things there talking about fans at games. They were talking about a £20 cap for away fans.
Yes,
at
and
matches.
a crease in allocation as well.
And a crease in allocation. So a minimum 3,000 or 8% of allocation. So Liverpool's allocation go up to something like 5,000, 5,500. It'd be 8,000 Old Trafford or whatever. The only thing is, like, if you had a club like Bournemouth or that in the Premier League who have a small sort of stadium capacity of only like 10, 11,000, that means that's nearly half the stadium's going to away fans.
I think it's the optics of the situation, because I think the big 6 teams were trying to consolidate this power that they already possess. But it's something that we don't want to admit that is already there. You just don't want to look at it. It's the elephant in the room, per se. And then the whole 6 of 9 majority, so they can just overrule the 3 happen to be their clubs, being Southampton, Everton and West Ham, I believe, yeah. And like, look at the grand institution that is Leeds United, Aston Villa, these big gargantuan football names, obviously not in terms of revenue and stuff now, but like, they're going to be left out of the picture. I just think it stinks, and they're giving crumbs to the EFL, and this ultimately is better than what they have now, but it just means that you're not going to have that football dream, that romanticism, oh, can my club become a Premier League team? Reality is they probably can't at the minute. So I'd say maybe just accept the deal. It's probably going to be as good as you're going to get, and just accept the reality that the big 6 have the big 6. It's not my point of view. I don't like it, but it's the way things are.
Like, it's already hard enough to get into the Premier League, and now having 2 teams less, it's going to be even harder. It's good in the short term for like the likes of the Championship clubs, like a financial gain, but like come like 10 years down the line, teams haven't been in the Premier League like for 20, 30 years. Like, it's going to be awful for the fans.
I think as well, if we go to 18 teams, it's probably going to be similar to something like the Bundesliga have now. The Bundesliga is 18 teams, 2 go down, 1 goes into a playoff. So I think the top of the championship wouldn't be affected that much in terms of just promotion playoff. So it'll probably just be top 2 go up, 4 teams playing a playoff, then the winner of that playoff plays a Premier League team, which then makes it harder for teams that don't finish the top 2. And then along with that 2 teams going down, there'll probably be an increase in numbers of teams to at least the Championship, League 1 or League 2, which are all incredibly hard divisions to get out.
1 team
anyway.
in each division, yeah. 1 in the Championship, 1 in League 1.
So it's just makes it really difficult to get into promised land. I think James makes a good point. I mean, realistically, the top 6, the amount of money they have compared to the other clubs is they're running with it. But I don't think it is the best thing for English football.
I know what James was saying about just accepting that the top 6 clubs are way ahead, and I completely agree. But the problem is that at the moment it's 1 club, 1 vote. So if the top 6 clubs said, what about if we reform the Premier League again and it's just us 6? Who's going to stop them? You know, with the 1 club, 1 vote, at least some of the interests of the smaller clubs are being looked after, even if they are kind of untouchable in terms of finishing above them.
It's how much does that 25% yearly revenue mean to you? It's like, is that the trade-off? Because John Henry and all, these are hedge fund managers. These guys know how to crunch their numbers. So obviously it's a very favourable trade in terms of Liverpool. You're absolutely right. Like, but I think there's some merit now. I wouldn't like to see it myself in all the big clubs, if you don't mind me saying, fucking off to European Super League and just letting the Premier League do what the Premier League does with the minus the 6 clubs. I think that would be a more healthier league potentially.
Owners of the EFL clubs and the employers of the clubs may look at the extra money and be like, oh, this is good for us. But then fans will look at it and be like, well, this is bad for us because maybe we have more money, but there's no chance of us getting to the Premier League, or even if you're League 2 being like, oh, it's going to be a lot harder for me to get up into League 1 of the Championship. Which, like, if you look at the likes of Luton and Lincoln, I think Lincoln are still League 1, but Luton were a non-league team 3 or 4 years ago, and they're in the Championship now. And I think they've had a pretty good start to the Championship season. It just makes it that much harder for teams in the lower divisions to move up, which is ultimately what football fans want. I mean, football fans want the club to be financially stable, but they also want to see their team do well on the pitch and have that chance to go to bigger teams and go to bigger stadiums, even if that is going from League 2 to the Championship.
Yeah, Conal already touched on it, that there was salary capping implemented. Like, that can be good, but it's more for the top 6. I'd see that being good for, because obviously City can't pay all the wages. Like, I know in the American sports like NFL, NBA, they already have a salary cap, so they can't just have everyone. That's good. So I think even the big 6 having a salary cap, things might become more even, which could make it more interesting to watch. But I have to say, I'm not in favour of this big project.
Yeah, but some sources might have you believe Pep gets half of his unofficial wages from offshore accounts. So there's always ways around especially for City.
If there's a salary cap implemented on the big 6 in England, but there isn't one applied across Europe, that just means any of the really good players are going to be offered incredible wages from the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, PSG, and they'll just go to those clubs. So if something like that happened, I feel like that would have to be a Europe-wide implementation.
Yeah, no, very true. It's definitely a complex issue. Some people paint it out to be the devil itself, and there is some positives to it. But if you had to vote in it, what way would you be voting?
I would probably vote against it.
It depends on my perspective. If I was in the big 6, I'd obviously bite your hand off for it, but there's not many clubs like that, so I'd probably say no.
If I was like a manager or like chairman of one of these big clubs, you'd be dying for it, but as a fan, I'd be against it. Yeah,
I think there definitely is some decent stuff in it for the smaller clubs, but generally speaking, it is a unanimous decision from our part that this would be a bad thing. I think it's being voted on, well, not voted on, but certainly discussed tomorrow or today when this is out on the Wednesday. Right, so going into the predictions. So the prediction league at the minute is Ronan bottom with 7. I'm above him now on 9. Mixer, you got 0 points this week. You're still on 10. I'm pulling out. I'm pulling out in front is James on 16. So your outlandish predictions are getting you somewhere, James. Okay, so first match of the weekend, we've got the Merseyside derby. So Everton at home to Liverpool. Two teams generally in good form. Everton have been fantastic. Liverpool have been largely good, if you forget that Aston Villa game. So I was half tempted to say Everton would win this. It's at Goodison, but they've been really good. But at the end of the day, they're still Everton. So I couldn't put my neck out in the line and predict a win. So I've went for a fairly entertaining 2-2 draw.
I've gone for a 2-0 Everton win because Adrian's a shit bastard.
Adrian is terrible, but I'm going to say 6-1 Liverpool.
Fuck's sake.
Fuck off.
Shut the fuck up. Oh my God.
Sorry, 16 points
Question
to
the
pick a
man's
league.
ways.
That's all I have to say.
All he has to do is predict a Liverpool win and he gets the point. It doesn't matter if he says 6-1, 18-0. It doesn't matter. He's just getting wins right. Oh,
It is what it is.
It's disgraceful.
I'm going for a good 0-0. 0-0. Yeah, just a hopeless Liverpool Merseyside derby at Goodison. Just, not optimistic at all.
Okay, so only one person predicting the Liverpool win there. Interesting. And that's going to stand to him because Liverpool will probably just win 2-0 and he'll be the only one to get a point. But anyway, so the next game, another really good game on the Saturday, is City at home to Arsenal. Two teams in different form, I would say. But again, as Ronan keeps saying on the podcast, City are good. So it's very hard to predict against them. I could definitely see Arsenal causing them problems like they did in the FA Cup semi-final last year. But I don't have enough confidence to actually predict it. So I'm just going with a pretty comfortable 2-0 City win. Our quad-league will just be too much. I've
gone for a 3-1 City win because City are good. Actually, I'm going to change that. I'm taking a leaf out of Jambo's book. Fucking 10-2 to City. Oh, fuck it.
The game is in disrepute.
I may as well.
I've gone for a Manchester City 4 goals to Arsenal 4 goals. Let's go. Game of the weekend.
I see Arsenal being too sad after the departure of the beloved Gunnersaurus. I think Pep's just going to get the cock out 4-0.
Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck.
Go back.
That's staying in the pod.
Yeah, keep that in.
Going on to the next game, we've got another derby, kind of. It's Palace at home to Brighton. It's one of the strangest rivalries, but it's a rivalry nonetheless. If fans were there, it'll be getting hostile, no doubt about it. They really do hate each other. All stems from just one match, I think, in the 80s or something that was really rough. Lots of big tackles going in. I think it's all stemmed from that. They're two very different teams. Palace, obviously, under Hodgson, just two banks of four, just sit back. Brighton, completely different under Graham Potter, play really good progressive football, but they are a little bit toothless. So I'm just going to go with a pretty boring 1-0 Palace win.
I'm going for a fuck-off 7-4 win for Brighton. I'm just going full in on Jam's tactic at this stage.
Look what I've done. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Palace win. I feel like they're due a win, and I think, you're right. I think Brighton are a bit toothless, and they're lucky getting penalties from Mupai doing his Panenkas. Let's just fuck off Mupai, huh?
I'm going to go for a 2-2. I think Connolly Mopai goals, and then just whatever from Palace. I just think it'll be an interesting game to watch. Two sides and start the season relatively well, considering they'll be in and around the relegation battle, but looking forward to that one.
And then the fourth game is another rivalry, again, kind of. It's Spurs against West Ham. So it is a London derby, but maybe not the most intense one. West Ham, obviously, with Millwall, Spurs with Arsenal. But there's a fair bit of hate between the fans, I would say. Probably more so on West Ham's part because they're just that much smaller. But Spurs, after that disastrous first game against Everton, have looked pretty good. And just the individual quality they have with the likes of Son and Kane is just too much for West Ham, I think. So I'm going to go with a 3-1 win to Spurs.
I'm going to go 5-3 for Spurs. I feel like David Moyes coming back is going to destroy any sense of goal being played by West. They'll still somehow bastard their way to 3 goals. And Spurs, Mourinho will, I don't know, maybe get them playing good football. Very solid analysis from myself here. 5-3 Spurs.
5-1 Spurs. I have nothing to say. It's just
You prefer
it's
not to
gonna be
speak.
it's gonna be fantastic.
I think we've just given up, Karen, at this stage about the predictions, have we?
I'm gonna hit them with a 3-1 Spurs. I think since our first pod, I'd have to change my relegation, thinking Villa will stay up and the Hammers will go down. So I think they're destined for an L on behalf of Jose Mourinho.
And the last match we're going to predict is pretty interesting one. Leeds at home to Wolves. So two sort of contrasting styles. But I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think both the teams won't really know how to approach each other. It'll be a little bit cagey. So I'm just going to go with a low score and draw, 1-1.
I'm going to go for a 4-2 Wolves victory because why not?
I am going to go for a 2-2. Yeah, I think similarly they're not going to know what approaches to go with. But Nuno does need something at the moment. It's just hard to know what way it's going to go. So yeah, 2-2.
I have a 2-2 as well. I have to painfully agree with James with the score. I've really liked the way Leeds have been playing this season, but I think Wolves will, like Jimenez, quality striker. Leeds defence, not great. Nuno needs to get something out of this game because it hasn't been a great start for them.
So that just about rounds up this week's podcast. So just want to say again, thanks very much for watching. The last transfer special we had was very well received, I think. We've surpassed 50 subscribers now. So please do like, subscribe. It really helps us. Comment any feedback, even criticism. You can absolutely go in on us. Just give us some feedback. Really appreciate it. Thanks very much for listening to the podcast. And as ever, we'll be back next week to discuss some actual Premier League football. Unbelievable.